So the conference, you had technical talks, you had insightful talks about mental health. So we really try to cover from different angles. Maybe some of you got a sense that myself and Sjoerd actually go way back to the prompt engineering, prompt hacking. And we both actually met in a Discord community from Sanders. Sanders is not yet here, but he's coming. So from learnprompting.org, and we were first contributors. So this is how we go way back to that. A lot of things changed, and we went explore different ways with LLMs. And now we lead a community which is called AI Productivity Hub. So basically, we will talk more about our goal, but I also have a YouTube channel where I cover commentary on AI and also automations and building such things like AI second brain, and recently started dabbing into venture capital. So if any of you have any great ideas and building stuff, I'm very curious to hear as well. Okay, Sjoerd.
Yes, hi, I'm Sjoerd, and 3 years ago, we met each other, and I stumbled into AI when ChatGPT came out. And since then, I've been just fascinated by it, carved my own route in the world of AI, and I've been building stuff with the help of AI that makes use of AI. And that's basically what I've been doing for the past 3 years. And I do that as an AI engineer, as well as at the community, and I share my learnings there. And we build cool stuff that we can share with people and just learn from one another.
So we looked through, and almost really when we just started collaborating, I think the same problem was true back then, it's true now. And you heard a lot about context engineering, memory engineering. I personally like memory engineering very much. So the problem is this. LLMs are generic without context. It's duh. And I like to use this analogy that if you hire the most intelligent person, the best designer in the world, the best consultant in your business, throw money at the problem, you get a person, good luck. But if they are okay, so what we are working on, and you say, no context, go invent me the best business, make me millions. That just simply doesn't work with humans, and that doesn't work with LLMs. So I think that is clear that we have generic solutions if we don't bring context. Now, the goal that we've been working on and narrowed down is enable people to own and bring personal context to LLMs. So the enable part is exactly what we are going to talk also with Bart, is how do you build communities? You all here are because of communities. We met because of the communities. And enabling people to own their context, own their data. This is a little bit comes from my background working with big data. But I think the fundamental belief is that every single person, every employer and business should have their own kind of system and they own their context and data. And we have community members who are oh, I have all my chats in ChatGPT and I got blocked because I tried to prompt hack and that's gone. 3 years of information gone. And I'm not even touching sensitive information, proprietary information. And we're going to talk how do we bring personal context to any LLM. And this is where, so I don't know how many of you know this concepts of second brain. Any hands? Yeah, familiar? Okay. So Tiago Forte famously, let's say, I think even in his book, established this framework of capture, organize, distill, and express. And it works, but now with LLMs coming into the picture, it's you really need to rethink it from ground up. And when we look at this framework, we really, if you look from the data perspective, so we need to collect data, we need to somehow store and process the data, and actually turn raw data into context. And then enable AI models to use that context. Just jumping at any point.
Yeah. No, I think old method of the second brain, you would have to collect data, know when to decide when you would actually want to store it, and then have a system of labeling it. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that takes way too much effort, although I do really love the idea of being able to collect all of that information and then having it at my fingertips, useful when I want to use it, but not put in the effort to store everything. And I think that's a pretty common theme for a lot of people. If you look at, for example, lots of people have building cool Notion templates or Obsidian, complex setups, different ways to store all that information. But then it falls apart when you realize, when I actually want to store something in a useful way where I can later reuse that, it takes a ton of effort. And that's something where LLMs can come in and AI models and just different techniques can come in to make that significantly easier.
Yeah, so basically over time, we were rethinking like how does AI second brain works and what are the components, because we are these type of AI second brain users who are like, I set up Obsidian, I set up Notion, I'm going to be organized, I have all the labels. 2 weeks later, and I have 30 bookmarks, and nothing works, and I give up. Okay, you guys are nodding, right? Okay, so you know the problem. We don't have to drill on that. And this is just basically an example of the approach and what we try to give everyday people who actually want to get into AI, who want to use these chat models in a simple way, but bring their context. So we have this like funny example for you. So if you go to any of your ChatGPT, Claude, anything what you use, if you ask something like, what should I gift Sjoerd as a gift? Or what should I buy to my partner? My dad's birthday is coming. And I promise to you, the next slide, we didn't fabricate. That was a real answer. So just like drum rolls. The answer, for example, with the AI second brain system, we get that based on my search through your memory, right? I found extensive information about Sjoerd. And the number one gift idea that it was suggesting was Anytime Pro subscription.
Very fitting.
Right. So basically, in essence, we imagine a world where every single person, when we use LLMs, is able to bring their own context. So everything is manageable. But now there is a lot of challenges with that, of course. But before we go into what people want and what we heard from people that we teach automation and community members, sorry, I forgot, but if you don't have any context, either in 90% of the cases or 99, LLM is going to just give you something. It's the way it's programmed is like to please you. We know all about that. So it will come up with some generic thing, or in this case, it's Claude. In the best case scenario, thank God if it asks you prompts you for giving me context. So again, we come back that you need that context. So how it started? Spaghetti automations.
So this is not NA10. This is
obviously.
So this was early 2024. So I think this version. So basically you need to capture the data somewhere and it's okay, what options do I have to interact with it? I don't really know any code. By now I do, luckily, but back then I had no clue. So I was just like only using visual builders. I didn't know what chat interface to use. So like Telegram is accessible. OpenAI has a bunch of models. OpenAI can manage conversation history. So there's like a bunch of different options there. But the systems, like on the standardization, really wasn't there at all. Now you have a bunch of layers that make it significantly easier to do this, but back then you had to plug in every single part, manage the conversation history yourself. If you want the model to use tools, then you need to upload these JSON schemas to the model instead of just copying and pasting an MCP into it. Same with, so for example, when it calls a tool and you need to provide the response yourself, and then you need to poll, then you need to keep checking in whether it's actually done, whether the model has read it and is starting to want to give you a response. So you need to have all these super complicated steps, basically because the APIs and everything wasn't as mature as it is now. And then I was just focused on trying to get like a first version to work. It operated, but I wouldn't really say that this could operate, work properly for anyone. Like it's more of a tech demo than anything that's really useful.
Yeah, and the way it really started, because we were like collaborating all the time, and it started from because I had the system running, and every conversation I have with people, I'm like, oh yeah, I just press on my phone, action button on iPhone, Telegram pops in, and I have LLM with all my context. And it remembers who I am, and I can just ask information and store that information. So that's back in the day, right? 2024, like years ago. And people were like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, I want this. I don't want to go into dashboards. I just want to communicate. So this way we were like, okay, so how can we teach this to people to do it themselves and enable that capability to build such a solutions? If you don't see something in the market, that instead of waiting till 2025, late 25 for this, that you build it yourself, and obviously for us ourselves to use. And so we come back to this, what do people actually want as like with context and using LLMs? I can give you like, how many of Joe Rogan podcast? Nice. Okay. Matthew McConaughey was on his podcast and they had, I think, like 30 minutes conversation about that. They're like, oh, like these chatbots are useless and McConaughey wants his writing, his context and but that's not existing. And Joe's like, yeah, nobody's building that. And I'm like literally listening. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I think it's still niche. How many of you have your personal context system that you bring to any LLM or interface? One person, two. Yeah, you got it too.
But some context is not quite as personal as business.
Yeah. Okay, so again, reference spaghetti automations, right? Where people had to go through templates, and I think it was pretty popular with Make to set it up. And we found out that if system doesn't work, probably 99% of the time it is human error. Copying API key wrong, putting wrong settings.
Yeah, no, it was a pain. This was an absolute pain. Like for us, I think we spent more time debugging this stuff for other people than it took to build the thing like for myself originally. So that was a lesson as well.
But of course you learn a lot, right? So from somebody who goes through that process, we learn, and then we are like, how can we make it a process that you can have that system super quickly? And basically one of the solutions that we ended up is automated setup for workflow automation. I still don't see that much of that circling around, but basically you get... Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's basically an automated setup for like a cleaner, more simplified, like more mature version of what we just saw, where it like runs with, just calls API of like the no-code tool. In this case, it's Make again, but it just like as a user, you click a few buttons and it guides you through the process. And instead of having to map like all kinds of different pieces of information and then having to click on some specific module and then pasting some value, this process is like much more safe. Like it validates certain stuff along the way. So if you click on continue, it checks like, hey, does the API key actually work or not? Do you make any mistakes here or there? And in about 5 to 10 minutes, people have the whole setup done instead of it was first, like I think, well over an hour for most people.
And probably on a Zoom call, walking through and teaching at the same time. So this setup is basically the end user, like I want you to imagine, like from the end user's perspective, that we get all the workflows, all the automations, the database setup, the whole like edge function structures in Supabase. Everything is set up through just providing like credentials API, just few steps here. And we just click next, paste things, and everything is running, right? And then we get them that they actually experience it first. And then we can, the next question is what people want is like, what now? I can do so much.
Yeah, just a quick addition. So this is built in 98% with Cloud Code. And it's also just a little fun fact, when you have these tools to enable you to solve a bunch of issues for you, then like I can build this, and it took a bit of time, but like in a weekend project I've built this, and that's a really nice thing because then I can share so much more with others. And that's something that like is enabled by AI as well. Just a little side note, it's like every time it's like this flywheel of just AI enabling you to do more.
Yeah. Okay, so then for what people want, obviously people want it to easy setup. They don't want blueprints, they don't want workflows. They're like, just give it to me, it works, and then let's personalize it to me. Let's add tools to me. The next thing we found out that people are like, I'm sitting on like years of documentation, files, bookmarks and stuff like that. So how that works, because in the AI second brain knowledge, like you interact and that everything gets remembered. But what if you want to add a lot of information and files, right? So then, of course, with knowledge base.
Yep. Yeah, so I built the knowledge base for the community to use. And it's all built on open source platforms. So like anyone, especially with like personal context, personal data or business data, you would want it to be in your own control, and you don't just want to send it over to America, to OpenAI, to any other company, and you want to have that control yourself. So I basically built a stack that's built purely on open source platforms that people can copy and paste. And it provides, a dashboard where you can just click on open. You can have like folders where you dump in information. You get one remote MCP server. You just paste a remote MCP server into ChatGPT, into Claude, into whatever, or like your local system if you want to. And it works. You can access your data, it can modify it, it can search it. You just have your MCP server that gives access to your personal context.
Yeah, and I teased some of you about the prompt engineering conference. So we have all this rich context. Maybe you missed some sessions. Of course, you can get slides. Of course, you can get recording. But what about if you get URL that you go to Claude and you just connect that knowledge base of prompt engineering conference, and then you can just chat. What are the learnings and stuff like that? So that's coming to you guys. Okay, so next thing, like the...
Very quick question. Are we allowed to share that?
If you share on social media that prompt engineering conference was the best thing you attended, then I think we can make a deal. Okay, the other thing is from the AI Second Brain, the capture. Like people have, and this we know from teaching people automations when they share their screens. I promise you, it's like around 80 tabs and bookmarks, and people really try to organize themselves. But there always comes, okay, I'm just scrolling, browsing, like instead of me taking a link, going to Claude or Telegram, sending that I want to remember this, what's the easiest way for me to capture? So we've been exploring different solutions. So you can see, for example, I built a Chrome extension that on any website, on a YouTube video, and on LinkedIn, because save button on LinkedIn is annoying. So I built what you have like now, save button, and basically it cleans up, extracts all the information, and that immediately is in my AI Second Brain, and I can just say, what are the last LinkedIn posts that I've been reading about? What can I learn from this? What are next ideas, right? So stuff like that. We, as I said, we both build, but this is what people also ask, like how different elements. And just one more thing before we move to what people want is that this code framework, and I see it with working with businesses and startups, and especially also now in venture capital, if you really need to gain anything from AI, I think there was also a presenter saying 95 like AI projects fail. And really, if you deeper in reports about this implementation of AI projects, what you're going to find, and this phenomena that actually if you take your workflows, your processes, your tools, and you just try to sprinkle AI on top, this is when you get really bad results. But if you take domain expertise person and bring AI engineer and you go, okay, we know nothing, how we would build this whole process from ground up and rethink. So basically, this is what we are trying to achieve with our code framework and AI Second Brain, completely rethinking like the ways you capture. Yeah, so another what people want, and I think it's a little bit of a car phenomena, because if back in the days when everyone was riding horses, you would ask, do you want a car? People would say, want faster horses. I hear this that people want visual interfaces of their AI Second Brain knowledge. Like I think people are very used to Obsidian or Notion interfaces. But what I found, and like we build it, right? But what I found that I build it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I can see what I captured, and I never look at it again. Like I literally use that as a context in a workflow on the go. I don't have time. If I need to share a link, that's useful. But people want that, and we will probably explore ways to deliver that. But I think in the future, we will have our context. We will have that trust, that we can trust that it remembers everything, and we will just bring it on. Memory management. So this is what any person who works with context and brings their kind of builds knowledge base and as to bring, let's say, AI Second Brain, memory management, that what happens after 3 months using system? Like the project that you did a month ago maybe is not relevant. What about a duplicate information? We don't want to pollute AI systems like these, hey, test, is this working? Like testing new tools, like you actually want to delete that. What about creating knowledge capsules? What about creating a memo that it always references all the factual information about you? So we are basically exploring all of this, archive, forgetfulness, right? And the last thing what people wanted is NA10. So the same AI Second Brain, what we did in Make, and that's for very beginner people to get into automation because Make is like been there around, it's simple. But anybody who really wants to break it and build it and explore goes for NA10. And this is what community have been asking. And we built exactly the same system in NA10. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like here we still see it's complicated, but that's handling all of the Telegram stuff. And the fun part is that little part up top, there's 7 copies of those, and those all handle the complexity. And that's all the tools that the agent has, but that's also, if you want to plug it into Claude, like those are turned into the MCP server. And those like little bits of 4 modules each are basically where all of the magic happens in this system. And yeah, like there was very big demand from the community to have this. And also it's a really nice addition because this also means like with the MCP server, you can connect it to a local LLM, but you can also like with N8N, since you can run it locally, you can run this whole automation on your own system too, which is a really nice addition. So if you want to have the 100% local version, then with this you can achieve it, where you have zero, like you could plug out your Ethernet cable, turn off your Wi-Fi and still be able to use it.
Yeah, and by the way, the same AI second brain we explore for individual people, but also for companies, bringing it to Slack, like having access control, security and all that. So this, I think the concept in itself and framework is there. We just need to like constantly rethinking and getting feedback for what people want. And with that, Bart, I want to ask you, come here. So everyone, Bart, please. So Bart, with N8N, especially the community, so you grew, it's an absolutely incredible job. So simple question. You hear a lot from all the community members. What do people want? The ones who build and the ones who use AI?
So to take one step back, what people want, right now we are pushing very hard on the education side. So just last night we had a workshop here in London. 100 people showed up and we taught them the basics, and that ended with building a simple AI agent as well. So after 4 hours, they were able to build their first agent that you could talk to, that could manage your calendar, that could send out emails on your behalf, etc. So yeah, people are hungry to learn how to work with this technology and how to build it. And we are able to provide very simple building blocks for them to do. People who are working with AI, we get continuous requests for adding like the latest models, for adding like new features. We're always keeping track of that. So usually if a new model is released, we should be able to offer it within a few days. That's very quick. We have a usual release cycle is every week. That's the benefit of being an open platform, right? And you can even access it before it's being released. We have a test version that you can access a week before it's being deployed to the rest of the world. So we have that. On the new feature side, we just released a text to workflow builder. A lot of people were experimenting with that already in the community, and you must have seen it, people building this on Claude and on OpenAI, selling it even as add-ons. And it's great, right? We look to see what people are making, and we don't replicate stuff just to put them out of business. But obviously, this was something that we were planning to do for a long time. But we learned that text to workflow is not a simple problem, and especially not if you build a feature that is aimed for 80% at new or young users. If you generate a workflow that has issues, it's going to leave them more confused than if you don't build a workflow for them. So we took a lot of time to be very careful and mindful, like how do people build workflows, visualize the process as it goes, very carefully plug in the right variables. And I think now we reached the point where we're very happy to release it. And I think just yesterday morning, we released it to 100% of the cloud users. So if you're on cloud, you can now go and try it out. And it's pretty cool. It's not a fast thing, but it works really well. And it's impressively good. Was it on the wish list? It's a subscription. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, those are the things that we see.
I had the pleasure, and thank you, Bart, for inviting me to Berlin Builder event. So if you liked this event, these guys do really awesome events as well. And we had this conversation about this dilemma that we with Sjoerd face in the communities. And I bet many of you, when you learn things here, you want to share, you want to talk with people, or maybe you even educating your teams or, I don't know, staff at your work. There is this problem that you want to share the latest, the complexity, right? Technical stuff. But then 90% usually of the audience is more like a beginner. So how, from everything what you do and learn, how do you find a balance between super technical? We could have showed backend of edge functions and how the database works and like metadata embeddings and stuff like that. But like, how do you balance between beginners that it's not too overwhelming and also advanced?
You gave away the answer by mentioning Builders Berlin, the event that we just did. So that was the first time we had a multi-track event where we had a track for new users, for advanced users, and for enterprise users as well. Because yeah, we did learn with all our meetups that we're getting more and more a mix of people, and you cannot just start with a super technical story. And we are aiming more to provide inspirational talks, platform overviews to explain how the stuff works on a high level. A workflow like this, we would break that down into a more... You could create architecture around this too, right? And you did this to a degree by using sub-workflows, but you can break this down even further and make the high-level functionality obvious, and then you can dive in deeper and deeper as long as the audience follows you. So that's a good trick to do. So yeah, the way to educate them is by having separate tracks for different audiences, but also one thing that we really like to do is live builds. So instead of showing the final version of what you built, and obviously this took you a very long time, we like to show people, like to do it step by step and explain how we do it. And just take your time to talk them through it.
Do you do any live workshops?
Last night we had one. Yeah, that was a beginner workshop, and we are now developing intermediate and advanced workshops as well. So the idea is you could step in at any of the levels that works for you. And the first one was based like it's very basic, like how does stuff work, what's the canvas, how do nodes work, etc. The next workshop will focus more on AI agents. So it will teach you how to build an agent using tools and memory and sub workflows and all that. Using agent tools as well. So now agents can call other agents and create way more complex scenarios. Obviously, I don't need to explain you, right? But you do not want one agent to handle every issue in your scenario, but you want to have dedicated processes for that. So that's what the intermediate workshop will do. And then later next year, we'll work on a more advanced one, which will also include like high performance computing. How do you set up efficient workflows? What kind of tools do you need for that?
Okay, so one last question from my side, and this is being maybe selfish. So, with Sjoerd, we get such a huge pleasure from teaching people, for seeing how, giving them really like independence. And we have a couple of our community members. So you just had David presenting on stage. It's incredible. Vicky has launched her own startup with a little bit help from two little helpers. But seeing the impact and all this knowledge what you guys have today, you can empower somebody to inspire, to get into AI, to get to this wave and demystify it a bit. But there is this question, like, how do you build successful communities and momentum like that, especially at NA10? Now, by the way, unicorn status, congratulations. Did you guys know that this is German unicorn? So how do you build successful communities? What can we also do better at Prompt Engineering Conference?
So to begin with, I only just arrived, so I can't really judge anything you did.
Did you like conference?
Excellent. Yeah.
Good.
I think
You missed out.
sorry, this is my third event in 3 days, so I'm like. So I think two key ingredients of what we do is, one, we build culture, not numbers. So my team is very aware of what we want to do is build a place that people can relate to. We want to be visible. We want to give people the opportunity to connect with us, both online and in person. So I think that's like secret number one. Don't be like an anonymous company like all the big ones out there. Secret number two, I think, would be, and I know I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we're looking more and more. We are not trying to decide where the community should go, but we're watching the community, like what is happening there. And a really good example of that is our new ambassador in Amsterdam, Maralisa. She suggested hosting co-working sessions where we just rent space and provide drinks and snacks and bring people together. And that way they can have an efficient time, but also they can show each other what they're working on and answer questions. And we did this twice now, and the last one was in Berlin, the day after the Build Berlin event. And it was brilliant. Like this, you've been to meetups, right? And you're not going to be walking around with your laptop open because that's just awkward. But at a co-working session, by nature, you have your stuff with you. And people were having a great time. They were just like sharing information, and they were like copying workflows and giving them to each other. And I think we are going to expand on that. So now that we've seen that this works, it's easy for us to amplify this and ask our ambassadors to roll this out. And we're watching for other activities like that. So just don't try to set the rules, but just follow what your community wants to do.
Okay, Bart, thank you so much. Do you have any questions for us? This is last session, your last chance, else we meet at the bar. No questions?
I don't know, I have lots of questions to say, but I'm trying to think.
Hi, so I really like the idea of the ambassadors and the working session. So as you spoke, things come to my head, and I'm thinking, I hope they do it in the weekend because I'm working during the week. And I'm in Swindon. You probably never heard of that town, so they'll never come to us. Do I need to travel to London? And then I say, maybe I should become an ambassador and do it in Swindon because otherwise nobody's ever going to come there. So I have all of these things. What can you expand a little bit more on your ambassador?
Sure, yeah. So right now the ambassador program is still pretty modest. We have 35 people on the team. For end of next year, we have a goal of expanding that to 1,000 ambassadors worldwide. And so we're looking at doing 10 meetups a day by that time. So yeah, we will have more locations, but obviously we will need to focus on the larger, the concentrations of users. So like a place like London makes sense, and Madrid and Europe and North America we're looking at. And anyone who's interested can take a look on our website. Just Google N8N Ambassador Program. You'll find an outline of the program and how to apply. But yeah, be aware that for now we are very strategically choosing the locations where we want our ambassadors to be. So first we're filling all the capitals in Europe, all the state capitals in the United States. Next quarter we're moving to Asia, and after that I think we're going to expand it to Eastern Europe and South and Africa as well. Yeah. It doesn't need to be in person, right? There's also ambassadors who organize online hangouts. So there's been, for example, like the German community hangouts, which was not limited to Germany, but just German speakers anywhere. So you can do that kind of thing as well. And maybe this is, again, me encouraging you to think outside the box, because everyone is doing meetups doesn't mean that's the best thing for you to do or for this community to keep doing either. Yeah.
But you came here, now you have a bunch of new friends, so here you go.
I like it.
I saw a question. Okay, I'm now back to MC stuff. By the way, somebody was like, oh, good luck doing MCPing.
Yeah, so I've noticed Olama is moving towards the cloud, and on the homepage Olama use the cloud, and they're bugging me to use their cloud, and they want to make money somehow. So is that going to happen to N8N? Are you going to push the users to use more enterprise or something like that, or are it going to be open source?
Wait, this is the time to think, right?
No. So yeah, we have this conversation a lot, and especially after closing our Series C, people are concerned about the free self-hosted version going away. It's not going away. It's the cornerstone of our entire marketing cycle. We are very aware that this helps product adoption and word of mouth. And actually, most of our enterprise users start as individual enthusiasts doing self-hosted. And no, it will not go anywhere.
Okay, I think with that happy note, give a little bit of applause to us. Thank you, Sjoerd, thank you, Bart, for coming. Okay, so this is the end, but there are some beers, so basically who runs first gets it. So there are some drinks, we want to hang out, get some food, it's dinner time. We are going to network, talk, we are not going away. For those who are strong and standing, we have a location where we gather for after drinks. So you're going to see that in a Discord. So you should have a QR code, but I don't have it. So you are on a Discord group? Okay, so we will make Maxime shout the location and then you guys join, okay? But we are here, so just grab us. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed. We tried this first time, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for taking your time.